All right, we're back. Episode 38, I believe. The Contractor Compass. Just me and Brock here today. Brock, I figured something easy to chat about today would just be like the handoff of lead from initial click from an ad to sales guy or to SDR to then comfort advisor, and just kind of talk about that process because like we've never really had somebody that's that involved on the sales side as you are. So I figured it'd be an easy Friday podcast for us to chat about, and hopefully people can get some value out of it as well. So starting with like the beginning of the sales process with like obviously that's my world, right? So speed to lead on the lead itself. So once where our speed to lead is like across the board on all partners is like 1.6 seconds or something, right? So extremely fast. And we see that obviously our pickup rate is pretty decent within that time frame in terms of when they actually connect. But then we see like anything after 3 days is completely worthless. Obviously, there's a time frame of like 5 minutes and under every shop should be doing. 2 minutes and under is pretty damn impossible unless like you literally have a system like ours that's built just for it. I think like normal companies within the office, they should shoot like 5 minutes and under. I know that doesn't sound like a huge difference, but like I don't know if you've seen any difference in the companies that you work with or what you see there, but I think 3 to 5 is just fine. What I'm curious is to know on your end, what does that ideal sales process look like for you, having been in the going to homes and being a comfort advisor? What is that? What's the ideal situation? Like, how fast do you want a lead to get to you? What do you want to know about the customer? And then we can kind of talk about pitfalls that companies might get into. But what does the ideal situation look like? And then we can talk like the flip of that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because there's two sides of it. Like ideally, like for myself, I would want to know a lot of information, but at the same time, some advisors I would rather them have less information because it kind of goes back to like last week we talked about prejudging the call, and that's
Yeah.
a huge issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes they see like just getting estimates or whatever it is, so they see that and they shortcut the process because of it. Me, I always got in the habit of going through the same process every single time. So the more intel I can get, the better. Like if I know the age of the system, kind of like the general location of it, that's great. If they can get some of the concerns over the phone, the SDR, that's awesome. But I really find though, like the close rate difference of having that and not, it's almost the
Not
same.
huge.
It's not. It's good to have, but the problem is if somehow, some way that doesn't get relayed to the comfort advisor, or they forget to read it and they start asking the same questions again,
Yeah.
then it makes you look bad. It's like, well, I already told the person over the phone all this. Why are you asking me this again? So
Correct.
that transition is extremely important. So if they have the notes, making sure they're writing it down, document it, and they have a place where they can look at it if it's a software based or anything.
That's actually, not to cut you off, but that's actually super interesting from like I would have never guessed that a customer, I mean, besides assholes, would be like, "Oh, I already told that guy over the phone." Because it's funny you say that because I wouldn't, from an ad standpoint, there's not, unless it's like a crazy deal and people are like stretched for cash. And this is not saying to you guys that are listening that you should run stupid offers that you can't actually fulfill on. But like, if you're running an offer that's like crazy good, a lot of people, when they get there, we don't hear a ton of feedback like, "Oh, I saw this ad." Unless they saw the price and that's really what got them. Like starting at as low as something like that, right? As monthly payments as low as like, sometimes we'll see that come up, but otherwise like they don't have a goddamn clue why they clicked. That was 3 days ago, and they just know that you're coming to their home and they're more invested now and they want to meet you and hear what you have to say. So it's interesting that you said that they remember the conversation with the SDR and giving them that info, and they may get annoyed when you're in the home and if you ask all the same shit again.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways because even sometimes, to your point, like if you can have a really strong ad and a really strong hook or whatever it is, just getting them on the phone, to your point, like if you have as low as XYZ dollar, usually they're not going to say, "Oh, well, I thought it was going to be this." It's like, well, because you already gave them, presented more options, it's custom to their home. They realize that that is the minimum option typically.
Correct.
But I would say it's not even like very upfront when they do it. It's, you can kind of see it's, they say it kind of soft, like, "Oh, I told the, like, as I said on the phone," it'll be something like that. I know internally that's probably a little frustrating because I've been through that before. If like, let's say you're randomly calling in somewhere and you give your concerns about it and they transfer you to someone else, then you got to say it again. It's kind of the same concept on there.
Yeah, 100%. It's like on the phone with freaking Verizon or something.
Yeah, exactly. You're explaining it like 3 times.
Yeah, fuck.
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Dude, it's
Terrible.
funny. My neighbor was outside, she was outside sitting in the lawn chair when I came home yesterday, and she looked at me and she, like, called me over. I could tell she was on the phone. She's like, "This is AT&T. I've been on this call for 4 hours." I'm
Oh,
like, "Yeah,
Jesus.
it's terrible." Anyway.
Horrible. But it's at the same time, like if you can read that information and know it and repeat, like, oh, I know over the phone they went through this, this, and this with you. Then you go deeper on the questionnaire and find the actual route. Then you look like a professional. It looks like you guys have it together.
Correct.
So it's super important.
What's the worst? I mean, like I said, you were with the one company for quite a long time. You
Yeah.
didn't really bop around too much, but like, what's the worst type of intake that you've seen working with like companies that you work with now? Obviously, you've seen more stuff, but like, what's like the worst intake process that you've ever seen?
I mean, it's just I would say not asking enough questions to see what the point of the appointment is. Because I've even been there too in the home. And sometimes it's as fact as they tell someone on the phone different than what's the actuality. So it's like you listen to the phone call transcript or whatever it is, and they clearly say this is a replacement estimate. He will not have any tools on him. That's 60 to 90 minutes, whatever it is. Then you get to the door. It's like, all right, here it is. How do we fix it? It's like, what are we talking about? This is a replacement estimate. Like we can get a tech for that. And there's ways to pivot and still go around that. But I would say like not clarifying the appointment process or what it is. I mean, it's going to throw you off completely because you can obviously take a customer that was thinking about repairing it. And if you're knowledgeable enough about the equipment, explain repair versus replace, get them into that replacement conversation. But that's just a whole process you have to do that can be negated by properly setting the appointment.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's probably the biggest one. That or the other big one is not confirming the call the day of.
Yeah. I was just gonna ask. That's where I was going next.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a guy from where was he at? I think he was in Arizona. And they were having a bunch of leads come in, and it was like, yeah, this is great. All the leads are coming in, but when we get to the door, they're not answering. And I was like, well, how does that happen? He's like, well, I was like, do you call them and say you're on your way? You're this amount of time out? It's like, no, but we send a bunch of automations through text. It's like, all right, well, is it working? No.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Like that physical phone call is everything.
Do you like the 24 hours before confirmation, or do you like, hey, I'm on the way confirmation, or both?
Yes, I would at minimum the 24 hours before, I think it's really important. Like, hey, we just got to confirm your appointment for tomorrow, blah blah blah. And leaving in that voicemail, we need verbal confirmation in order to send our guys out. So that way they actually call them. But I would still always on my way, I would give them a call and let them know because that sets the impression of how that appointment's going to go. Because how you take that initial phone call when you're calling them, hey, this is Brock from XYZ company. We have a 9:30 appointment. I'm scheduled to be there right on time. Just wanted to give you a quick call and let you know I'm on my way. There's a script we use, but that's top of my head. But how you say it, your tone, the delay, the pause, everything, the customer's already painting a picture of you at that point. So
Correct.
if the guys are too lazy in that, or they don't make the phone call, or they're late, or whatever it is, you're setting yourself up for failure because they're already perceiving what type of person you are. So
Correct.
I would always do that though. That and then I would shoot a text as well.
Yeah, you're almost like, I mean, I don't want to say you're building rapport, but like it's your voice, you're gonna be there. Because that's what you mean, like, right? You're actually the sales guy is calling, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some companies they have the office call and like, hey, our guy's gonna be there in 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Like I would always want to call them.
Correct.
I would want to talk to them first.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What do you feel like separates them? So let's say or before we move, I should say, is there anything else? So obviously confirming beforehand. Is there any other way that you've seen like any other tricks or anything like that to cut down on no-shows when you're going out to the house?
I had a very little amount of no-shows because of that process.
Yeah.
Every now and then you still get them, but I would say like just as a value point of something like the CSR can do. One big problem is, well, it's not really a problem if you know how to handle it, but you hear about like single leg appointments, husband only, wife only, one of the decision makers. And that's always a question I get asked is like, well, how do we handle that? How do we make sure they're both there? And I've heard these transcripts of like, hey, we require all financial parties to be available during the appointment. It's like, so you're telling them there's a sales call, they're going to ask for your money at the end. And when you do that, now husband and wife are talking, just to let you know, when Brock comes out, no matter what he says, we're not buying anything today. I don't care how good it sounds. We're not going to do this. Okay. They always have that conversation beforehand.
Correct.
But an easier way to do it, and I found it worked pretty effectively, is on that call. You do it towards the end. You don't do it in the middle or the beginning. I'd say something along the lines of, and we do recommend anyone who controls the thermostats available during this appointment, because they're going to go through several different options customized to your needs. So if we can have both or all the people that control the thermostat available, that would be great. What time works best for both of you guys? Or if it's multiple people, whatever it is.
Yeah. Who controls the thermostat and the bank account?
Exactly. Yeah. And they usually are correlated. So
that's interesting. That's a cool way to put. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, because you hear the word decision maker, and that's just
that's terrible. I don't ever. Yeah. We don't
it's a
ever say
4-letter word.
that. Yeah. That's funny. Okay, cool. That's a good little hack. Dude, I gotta tell you, I gotta get this dropping bombs thing. I gotta figure out something else. Fuck.
You load it up.
Yeah, dude. Last time we did like applause. It was too long. Though. I like shut it off. I was like, shit. Right. Okay, so what do you think the separators are when, and there's probably a lot here, a great in-home visit, like first sit versus like a mediocre one. So like separating, I don't want to say separating from like an $8K ticket to an $18,000 ticket, but maybe, right? With like add-ons and things of that nature. What do you think that flow looks like from really good to where do people make mistakes?
It's actually a really good question. It's funny because I did a webinar like 3 days ago, and I was talking specifically about this. So that's a perfect setup.
Yeah.
What I found, like one of the biggest pieces that a lot of the advisors are missing, or they're going past too quickly, is the questionnaire. So there's a couple things in the questionnaire that really separates guys. So number one is having a questionnaire, because you would be surprised how many times they go in the home and it's 3 questions. What's going on with the unit? What do you want improved, or whatever it is? And they're not finding the real needs. So all of a sudden, when you're quoting a system, now you're just XYZ company with a box for XYZ price. And obviously, if you're going to compare, who's going to win is the cheapest one. But so finding the real needs, so having that questionnaire and going 3 to 4 layers deep on each question. So like the easy frame I utilize is, what's the problem? Who does that problem or how long has that been affecting you? Who's that problem affecting? And what have you guys tried to do? So let's say it's like noise, right? So noise is actually a really small thing that a lot of guys don't go into detail with, because they just assume customers know that the units are going to be quieter.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest motivating things for people to buy, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, everyone thinks it's efficiency, it's lifespan or whatever, but when you can really tie into noise, that's
do you think it's like because they're in outdoor spaces that they want to enjoy outside type of deal, or is it just like, because the reason I say that, so we have a partner in California, I'll name drop him, Brandon New Age Air. He's an awesome dude, great company, seriously good guy, and he's really good in front of the camera, so he makes really kick-ass ads, and we've actually had him on here, and he drove into like noise immediately, was like his biggest thing, and it kind of like, it was interesting for us because it was like, we haven't had anybody like dive into that pain point that heavy. Like he did cool ads where he like laid by the old system and it was just loud, you could barely hear him.
Yeah.
And then he put the new one in and it was silent. I think he runs like Daikin Fit systems or something, and and they were just, I mean, there was no sound whatsoever, and but that was his thing. It was like living spaces, like this was right by their patio or something. Do you see it? Do you think it's that a lot, or what do you usually see?
It's a big point of it, because what we figure, like a lot of the guys in the industry doing this a long time, like we realize the new units are going to be quieter. And when a customer has a loud unit, they may have had it for 10 years and they just got kind of used to it, and they don't realize how annoying it actually is because they don't know that there's a solution in place. So like going deep in that question. So for example, let's say, is this unit pretty noisy or whatever? It's like, yeah, it's an air conditioning. It's kind of loud. It's like, okay, well, has that gotten progressively worse over time, or has it kind of been the same? So, yeah, it's gotten a little worse. Okay, and typically, who does it affect the most? Is it when you guys are right here watching TV, or is it when you guys are out on the porch drinking coffee? You're like, what's exactly going on? And like, oh, it's typically when we're drinking coffee, we got to turn the unit off, come in, or whatever. It's okay. Have you guys tried to do anything to prevent the noise? Yeah, we just turn it off, then we get inside and it's hot. So going through that like step by step, and you can go deeper than that, obviously, but
yeah,
in their head, they're reliving that moment of, all right, we're outside, we're drinking coffee, it's uncomfortable, this thing's annoying, this thing's loud, and they're visualizing all that.
Correct.
So the big mistake though guys make is at that point, they're like, yeah, the new unit's really going to help with that. Then you just killed all the urgency.
Correct.
So what you have to do is you have to hold on to that point, write it down. Then once you go through the solutions, then you bring it back up. So remember earlier we talked about XYZ. So this unit's really going to help you because the noise, when it's a variable speed, it starts soft and ramps up. And this is really going to help when you guys are out on the porch. You guys can finally be comfortable. So you let them kind of sit in the pain to realize how annoying that is and resolve it back later.
Okay.
And that's like the biggest missing piece I always find is they don't find the real solution. So when you do it that way, now it looks like a custom choice rather than this is a new unit, it'll be quiet.
It's going to be quiet. Yeah,
exactly. So in the questionnaire, I think like that is a huge piece that can be amplified a lot in finding the true solutions too. Because as simple as like finding a bedroom that with lack of airflow, going into depth, why that affects them so much, blah, blah, blah. And you present an option of ductwork modification or a specific unit with zoning, whatever it is. If you're the only one that presented it, now they're not comparing price because there's no one in comparison.
Correct.
So like I mean, you're going to get
I mean, that makes complete sense because that's just a better sales cycle in general in terms of like finding out pain points and then molding your solution to those pain points instead of just, okay, what are not asking a limited amount of questions, kind of finding out what they don't like and then giving them the same solution. You could give them that exact same solution, but if you're holding those things and then as you're checking those boxes off as you're going through the solution that you're offering them. And then it gets that custom feel, right? And then who knows, like you may be able to add actual add-ons in there, like, like air quality, halo systems or something.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Yeah. And at the end of the day too, like the important thing is the reason you're at the house is they do have problems, whether they realize it or not, and they might not know their solutions. So unless you go into depth, you're not going to be able to help that customer out. So the more you can customize it and help their problem, the more they're going to want to buy from you. So it's just not a price comparison. It's not for upsells, and it does work to upsell, obviously, but then the customer's a lot more happy because the solutions are actually found, right?
Correct.
So yeah, it's a really big point. I'd say that's probably the biggest separator.
And you said that you have guys take a checklist, if you will, or like just a process when they go through. I'm assuming you feel the same way about like good, better, best. You actually have guys present with a tablet, or like what do you like for that process?
Really good question too. So this is another huge part that I find a lot of guys mess up on. I did some ride-alongs with, I did some on-site training, and third day was ride-alongs. It was like a $40 million company, and they had a really good process, but what they found is like they were never selling the top end unit. It was always middle or low. So when I looked at the process to kind of have them run through it, is they would have, let's say, I call it best, better, good, because you always want to present the top end unit first. Also, too, side note to that, I would never label it best, better, good. I would always label it specific to their home or whatever their needs are. Only reason I say that is if you have like a good, better, best, better, good, whatever you want to call it, if another company uses that verbiage, they're going to think the units are similar. So their best might be your good. Then you kind of go down that, and it doesn't end up very well. The point of what I'm trying to get to is what they were doing is they would say, okay, this is how the systems work. They're single stage, two stage variable. Then they would flip over their iPad and they would have the 3 packages and the prices would be at the bottom. So as they were saying, okay, this is the best system. This is going to have XYZ benefits. It's going to be great because of this reason. Then here's this one. And all while they're doing that explanation, the price is at the bottom. So what do you think the customer's looking at?
The price.
The whole time. So they didn't listen to probably half of the stuff they said, and they already tried to justify what unit they wanted to choose based on the price rather than the actual system. So separating it, even like a simple thing I would do is I would just screenshot that package. Then I would have it on my iPad. So I would explain the systems in detail. Then after they fully understood the differences, then you present the price one by one.
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, that's.
Do you get a soft like feel of which one they like before you're presenting price? Like, okay, these are the options. Like do you have a preference of what you'd like to go with? Or do you just switch right away to like, okay, these are the options I just showed you that we just talked about in depth. Here's the pricing one by one for each.
Yeah, I do it a little different than most. So like early in my career, I would try to like get them onto one unit before I went to the price. Then I kind of transitioned. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to present the price, then try to have them pick a unit. I actually stopped doing that completely because what I started doing, and Tom would like this because people buy payments. But what I started doing is after the price is on the paper, then I would transition that to financing. After the financing was explained, then I would ask them. Because what happens is if you just have numbers on paper, just for sake of numbers, let's say one's 20,000, one's 15, one's 10. and you ask, well, which one do you prefer out of the three? If they don't know how affordable it is yet, they don't know.
Correct.
So
I have no idea.
they might like the highest one, but they're not going to tell you that because they don't think they can afford it yet. So you go through those the monthly budget plans, I call them, because financing's a F word.
Yeah, for sure.
It's another mistake people make, is making finance look bad, like it's a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But once you have those the payments written down, they're presented, then so between, let's say for sake of example, between the 15-year and the 0% program, which one feels more comfortable if you guys were going to do this? And let's say they say the 15. Okay, perfect. Do you have a driver's license on you by chance? Then you get the driver's license, you just start filling out the application. So you don't have to ask them like, do you want to move forward? Because now they have a $20,000 decision on their lap and they have to decide yes, no, or pause, which most people pause. So I can't tell you how many deals I've gotten of just asking for the driver's license. And they're like, oh, well, what's that for? It's just for the application. It takes like 2 minutes. Then all of a sudden we're filling out the application. And at that point you change the subject. You never talk about HVAC again. Because I've also seen on ride-alongs too, they get the sale, they start writing it up and
yourself out of it.
Yep. They keep selling. They're like, yeah, you're going to love this because this reasons. And this isn't the cheapest option, but this is the best one because of this. And they just say these stupid items and it just kills the sale. Number one way sales guys kill deals is they say stupid shit. It happens all the time and it drives me insane.
Yep. That makes sense.
Long way of answering your question, but
I think that's interesting. That's not what I would have guessed at all. So once you go through, you get the approval for whatever, or you get like a rough understanding or a soft pull or whatever it is. Then you're presenting the prices with the actual payment options there available. Okay.
Yeah. And the other really good tip too is, this was a game changer for me when I started doing, is let's say, for example, it's a $200 payment, right? So instead of just leaving it at like a 15-year $200 payment, I would break it down to the daily as well. So $200, I'd say that actually breaks down to about $7 a day. Then I would go into the story, which is a true story. A customer brought this up, which helped me develop it in this pitch. But I had a guy, he was like, okay, so $7 a day. We weren't expecting to spend $200 a month, but he really wanted it. And he was like, okay, so here's what I'm gonna do is every day before I go to work, I get Starbucks, I get a venti cold brew, and it's like $7 by the time it's paid for, right? He's like, okay, I'm gonna go buy a coffee maker. I'm gonna stop getting Starbucks every day. That just paid for my system. I was like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, 100%.
I started telling customers that story, like, oh yeah, that actually makes
sense. You drink coffee? Yeah, well, get this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
When you break it down to that, and then you of course mentioned that's before all the savings, that's the lack of repair on the old unit you have or whatever. So it just justifies the price a lot better that way.
Yep. Yeah, and they're already so much farther in the sales process.
Oh yeah. Right? Once you get them approved, the close, I mean, probably 95% of them move forward at that point.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. And there's less pressure too, because it's an assumed order rather than asking for the order.
Correct.
So it's very different how it comes off.
Yeah, always assume the sale.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. This was an interesting one. So what do you when it comes down to whose fault it is and why deals don't close, right? So deal doesn't close, the marketing team blames the sales team blames the marketing team, somehow the SDRs get thrown there because they didn't disqualify well enough or whatever. Like, whose fault is it?
Great question. And because I'm so biased, like, not to throw sales guys under the bus, but that's typically where I go. Because I mean, the way I look at it is, if someone's going to go through the process, they're going to put an inquiry in, they're going to accept the inquiry, they're going to talk to an SDR, whether they did a good job or not, they're going to let you inside of the house.
Yeah.
At some point, the sales guy, I think, has the most responsibility. And whether it's like, maybe they're in there for a full system, and maybe you could have just sold them some IAQ. Maybe you could have sold them a membership. Maybe you could have got something out of it, right? But if you didn't go through all those steps, like, everyone wants to buy something. People don't just have you out in their house for fun. And sometimes it does feel like that. You get some people and like, oh, we're not doing it for 3 years from now.
Yeah, no shit. Like, you want to be my friend, or what's going on here?
Exactly. You got to pay me for my time at least.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah.
I've been in those situations, but more often than not, though, like, if you can go through strategy and you can present, you can make the customer see the value, build urgency on it, they should buy something.
Yeah.
And like, I'll go down the story of one of my favorite sales I ever made, believe it or not, was ductwork only. So whole story of this is, Get into this house. It was a customer, didn't really want to do anything. He was very skeptic of our company because at that time, for some reason, we had a streak of bad Yelp reviews. And for the record, in the 50 million I sold in my career, I never got a single bad review and never got kicked out of a house. So
Mm.
that wasn't for me, thankfully.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But you never know. Some people, they complain, whatever it was. That's kind of a hard objection to overcome.
Yeah,
And so I'm trying to build
very.
value. I'm trying to go through this whole thing. And he wanted a full system. Going through the process, I'm there for like 3 hours trying to sell him the system. Long story short, he wanted a system and ductwork. And I was able to, after like 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 45 minutes, I realized like I'm there this long. Like we got to get something. Like I'm not just going to go home with nothing here. So I ended up just selling him ductwork only for like $5,000. And the whole pitch was like, look, I understand you're on the fence because you saw these reviews. There was a bad situation that happened. I can tell you about that specific situation. I know we resolved it, but I could just be saying anything.
Yep.
Let's start with the ductwork. I
Correct.
guarantee it's going to go smooth.
Let's earn your trust for the system.
Exactly. And 2 weeks later, he ended up doing the full system. But the point of that is like, I guarantee you no one else in the field would have gone through that grade of length to get something and
Yep.
turn into a full sale.
Yeah, progressing the sale forward however you can.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because the other problem with our industry is companies like you, they load them up with leads, which is great. They have all leads to count on, but they assume one bad experience, one objection. All right, I'm out. I'm going to the next one.
yeah,
It's like you don't know what the next one's going to be either. So you have to maximize every single call. And that's what it comes down to.
yeah, for sure. It's interesting. I've grown to have a love-hate relationship with our game because like our game doesn't work unless the game that you play does. You know what I mean? And then like we spent a long time. Oh my God, we still make mistakes bringing on companies we should not. Um, it took us a long time to learn that, but it's harder to acquire those really high companies, right? Are those companies that have the systems and processes and the revenue in place that they can actually, they can take care of business and sell
Yeah.
shit,
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, it's interesting, just like the quality of when you get at like a quality company that has a good process, can go through it and they understand like lifetime value of the customer and what they're there to do. And it's funny, and I don't even want to say sometimes it's not just to your point of like they get there and they get objection and they leave. There's one guy that we work with that he's actually been on the podcast as well. It was Raphael, and he's a hustler, dude. Like it was funny. So when he first came to us like 5 years ago, even back then, I can't believe I was even doing this. I mean, good for me, but I actually disqualified him. And I'm like, hey, dude, there's no way we can work together. And like our prices and what we were requiring people to spend was so much less back then too. Just in terms of like the volume that it takes to get people where they need to go. Like we didn't even really comprehend it at that point in time. We're just like, okay, a couple extra sales a month is great. Well, now it's like, okay, we want to be really pushing volume with people. So he got pissed, not like mad at me, but he was like, okay, fine. And he came back like a year later. He was a little bit like in a better situation. But he was with us before we had appointment setters, any of that fancy stuff. And he figured out a way to get deals done. And that's more hustle than it was process because he was the owner, right? That's a little bit different. That's a little bit different deal there.
Right.
It's much easier than, just trying to get comfort advisors to go sell for you. But yeah, it's interesting how many guys just take the no or take the objection and they're like, well, if it's not a lay down, like I'm not doing it, or like if they run word of mouth stuff for the longest time, or if they work for a company that's been around for 45 years and then they start working like marketed leads and it's like, dude, like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, this isn't Susie. That is Jan's best friend who worked with you last week. Like, you have to have some sort of skill level.
You got to go through the process. It's super funny you say that too, because I did a free sales process audit literally like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
And it was a owner operator. It was in California. And he was selling like base level equipment for like 10 grand in the California market, which, as you know, that's extremely cheap. And he just started up maybe like a year ago and was just mainly referral. And he was at like an 80% close rate. And I was like, that's great, but that's actually bad news. Because if your close rate's that high, you are leaving so much money on the table. And I know your margins aren't great at that amount.
Correct.
So I was explaining to him, like, look, when you explain the price to the customer, if they say, oh, that's a really great deal, that's not necessarily a good thing
Correct.
because they should almost gasp at first with the price because the price of the equipment's gone up. You have to have enough revenue to support your overall business and be profitable so you can support your customers, right?
Correct.
But I was telling him, like, look, I literally, if we raised your price by 3 grand and let's say you drop 10% close rate, God forbid, what does that do to the bottom line? So you do less work, you're more
Correct.
profitable, and it's better in turn. And he's like, well, yeah, but I'm used to doing this price. I mainly work on referrals. Like, I understand that, but you're not going to have a company a year from now if you
Yeah,
keep
you're in a
having that
losing
price.
race there, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. The lowest man to the price. I mean, the lowest man's going to lose and he's going to win at the same time.
Correct. Yeah,
He's
you're
going to win the
winning.
job, but he's going to lose the business.
You're winning the loss. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Who wants to lose the worst
Yeah.
or the
And it
most,
was
I
like
should
that.
say.
That's what gets in the way of like, I've talked about it before, but like that $1 to $3 million company, just having that pride of like close rate and we're at 80% and we're got a really good process in place. Like, well, the only reason you're at 80% is because you're the cheapest one in the market and everyone knows that.
Correct.
And that'll
Yeah,
never get you
100%.
forward. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's I think I mean running a business is tough, right? And I think a lot of these guys have just it's I mean, I think all of us is like just mental battles that you have to break through, just mental blocks that you have to get through.
Yeah.
What you can charge, what you're capable of doing, like what people will say yes to, not in a bad way, but like to to be successful and are like successful in terms of being profitable and having stuff to go home, having some take home at the end of the year. Um, we've talked to a few guys and we have like a word track for it now where it's just absolutely asinine. Like they'll get on the phone and they'll be like, "I've been in business for 35 years," and like and then they'll tell me like, this is not an exaggeration. Like I've been in business 35 years. Like cool. So like, did revenue look like last year? Like what are you pacing this year? Like well, we're pacing 700K this year. What?
What? How?
Yeah. Like wait a minute, hold on. So then we back up. We're like, okay, cool, John. So you've been in business for 35 years. And you say your close rate is really good, and you're pacing 700 grand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. John, I don't know if that's a good thing.
You're right.
I that doesn't make sense. I think that's a bad thing. Like we'll onboard companies that start that year and do 6 million.
Right. Exactly.
Like what
Well,
are
then
we
you
doing?
ask him like, well, what'd you do the last 2 years? Around like we did also around that. Like, well, with inflation, you went down. Like
That's
you're
terrible.
negative.
Terrible, dude. Terrible.
That's insane.
Cool. Anything else? Any other golden nuggets here before we wrap up that you would say just in the home? I mean, I don't even want to go any further just because we dropped so many today. Or you have anything else that you would recommend guys do when they get in the home? Any other little things that you see that really turns the needle or
I would say one other big mover too is having a physical presentation book. I think this is one of the things that's kind of slept on now. Is it's one of two things. One is they try to remember all the unique selling points of the company verbally, which is better than not explaining them at all, obviously. But when you verbalize something, it doesn't have much standing on that. So if you can have it physically in a book and you can show the customers while you're talking about it, I mean, it's 10 times more powerful. So like my clients, I build it custom for their company. So it makes it really nice and easy to flow.
yep.
But it also standardizes the process. So if they have multiple sales guys in the field and they have a book they can go through and say, okay, this is the company story, this is the license number, all those little things. My saying, I say it all the time, but if the other company does not talk about it, is now exclusive to you. So they might be pulling permits, but if they didn't talk about pulling permits, now it's a question mark. And do you really think they're going to call that company back to say, hey, were you guys pulling permits? It's like, no, they're going to go with the company in front of them. And you don't want to be that company that you forgot to go over all those little things. So, and having that printed too, it's more tangible. There's more data behind it. And like having the iPad, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I can go on a slideshow and I can edit it in 5 seconds. And it might be subconscious. The customer doesn't even realize that's like a discrepancy for them. But when you print it and the pages are kind of a little weathered and they know they've gone through it a ton of times, it has a lot more value to it. So having the same process every time, I mean, that's to me is the point. Even like big companies, I find all their sales guys are having a different process. And how do you improve something when it's all different? You just can't.
Yeah.
That's
No,
a big
100%.
piece for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I think in the next few we'll have to dive a little deeper into like different sizes of companies and things that they can work on. Um, maybe even grab a few folks from different levels to jump on here and so that we can because each shop at different levels, 2 million, 1 million, 5 million, 50 million, they're all having different levers that they're pulling.
For sure.
That'll be interesting. Cool. All right, brother. Well, if you guys are listening, on the next one, we will hopefully have Tom back, and we'll walk over some different things through the sales process, financing, marketing, all that good shit. It is the summertime right now when we're getting into it, anyways. Right now when we're doing this podcast, so we'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, adios.